to everyone. It's a pleasure from the Foundation and CNC to see all of you here around approaching a topic that is a concern to everyone nowadays, everyone, companies, people, everyone. And sometimes when it happens, is the time that we remember that the cyber security is something very important that we tell. I would like to thank Loxon, Mr. Victor Wu. Your presence represent to us a stimulus to continue to make this kind of events that is useful for Macau to bring Hong Kong and Macau working together for the Greater Bay, for the Greater China. Thank you. And thank you to all the person who is going to be the panel today, and especially Frankie and Melody for their efforts and a lot of mails to prepare and all the details that for us. And for us on our side, Paulo and the kids also was a good lesson how to make it, because you have been very careful to draw attention on all the details. So thank you in special. Thank you, Paulo. Thank you, Nuno, for introducing this event and this topic that is important for us. So I expect that you have a good evening. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Following the presentation from Dr. Rui Cunha and thanking the foundation, they hosting us here. We usually cooperate very well with the foundation because CNC usually does its events here. The theme today is cybersecurity, and Dr. Cunha already referred is a very important theme because we are in the era of information technology, and everything is evolving at a rhythm that we cannot cope with. Unfortunately, criminal world sometimes evolve even faster than business world, and those that takes us and make us live in a world where I was reading some quotes earlier today, and someone was saying that there are only two kinds of companies in the world: the ones that have been hacked and the ones that have been hacked and don't know it yet. So this is worrisome. Why? Because what we keep nowadays in our computers is very valuable. Not only because the intrinsic value of the information that we have there, but also because the consequences that can arise from disclosing without control that information. This is the reason cybersecurity is so important. And cybersecurity is not a magic bullet. Cybersecurity is a process. It's something that is continually being made, is something that we should have always in mind, and something that requires from us prevention, preparation, and then action when things go wrong. That's why, and because you might think, why is lawyer's office interested in these matters? Is because although all these problems are, most of them technical, they have consequences. And those consequences are more and more stipulated in the law, and can cause great great losses, bad results from the companies that suffer cybersecurity incidents. And also in the area of legal matters, we should also be prepared. And CNC, because CNC is an office that likes to and these values, we want to be together with our clients. And when we feel that our clients have problems related with in certain areas, we try to create the support for our clients on these areas so that they can feel that they have with us, as their legal advisors, the support that they need in certain, in all those situations where they need it. Not only in the prevention, in the preparation for the problems that can arise from a cyber security breach, but also in the breach itself as breach counsels for our clients. We are now having this new desk in our office, and this new desk also tries to follow our values. We try to provide excellent and efficient service to our clients, and with the flexible mind to give the solutions for each case. I am now just giving a final word to Lockton. You were the ones that we first met on this area. You provide us and cooperate with us on these matters. I consider you very professional and very efficient on the area that you are working on. And your cooperation has been very valuable. So thank you for being here. And we hope to see your presentation. It's going to be very important. And without much ado, I will pass the word to my colleague, Paulo, that will follow up with the presentation from the legal aspects of cybersecurity. Now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nurmata, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. And thank you for your interest in this matter, because it truly is a raising issue in our daily lives, both personal and on a professional level. I'll do a brief overview about what poses a cybercrime and a cyber risk, what is the current landscape for cyber threats for this upcoming year, what are the risks and threats that also will be focusing SMEs, small and medium companies, and what measures should be put into place to protect your business. So as we all are aware, Macau benefits from being a region with a low crime index. So it benefits from this low crime that helps locals and tourists to thrive here, for businesses to also be established here because of this lack of physical crime. However, nowadays crime does not know borders, so there is this rising threats that occur on the online world. So on the digital domain, these threats are rising every year, and recent studies report that it tripled since 2020. So there's this need to adopt cybersecurity and new policies to defend your business, defend your clients, and protect your information. So, what poses, what is a cyber risk? A cyber risk is any threat, any risk, any vulnerability to your computer system, to your networks, to your source of information. So every time you're online, you are exposed to threats. And within this new era, there are different forms of threats. It can come from different sources. So we should be aware of how a threat can look like, how likely they are to appear, and put the measures in motion to safeguard our business and our information. In Macau, there are some laws and regulations concerning the transfer and gathering of information. Then all these laws and regulations should be taken into consideration for individuals and clients when they operate. I will not dive into all of them today. I will focus briefly on cybersecurity law and the personal data protection law. But these are some of the laws that companies need to abide by when they are having and conducting businesses in Macau. Regarding the cybersecurity law, this is a law enacted in 2019 that attempts to regulate the cybersecurity system of critical infrastructure operators. So, of all the networks and computer systems of these infrastructures that are important to the normal function of a society. So these are the healthcare providers, financial institutions, communications department, all of the essential services that can allow the normal and good function of a society. And if they are endangered, they pose a serious public and safety issue to the society. So there's a need to adopt specific cybersecurity measures and operational procedures to safeguard these interests. So the cybersecurity law states that these entities shall develop and adopt specific cybersecurity management systems and internal measures on how to react in face of an issue. And there are also reporting duties that they need to abide by and report to the regulatory entity in case of any cybersecurity breach or attack. If they fail to comply with the provisions under the cybersecurity law, there are penalties and fines that apply to these operators. Now moving to the personal data protection law. This is applicable to all data controllers, to all companies that gather information within Macau territory or to a user in Macau. So there's a territorial scope of activity, and the information that is collected needs to be collected for a strict and specific legitimate purpose. So it needs to be authorized by the data subject, and its purpose needs to be connected with the scope of activity of the data controller of the company. And this data controller also needs to implement measures to safeguard the integrity of the information collected and to have measures to protect unauthorized disclosure or unlawful access to this information. Also, if these measures are not abided by, there are consequences, there are fines that can be applied to these entities. And why is it important and why are there so many regulations on the collection and transfer of information? It's because nowadays information is exposed everywhere. We deal with it on our personal lives, we deal it with our business when we are conducting business, and information comes and exists in all interactions that we have. So either is it through voluntary means when we apply for a social network, when we apply for a food delivery platform to order our food, when we connect with our smartwatch or with our home assistant device, we are always exchanging and providing information. So this needs to be addressed. We need to implement robust policies to safeguard our own interests as individuals, but also as a company, our clients' interests, because with also the development of AI technologies, with the Internet of Things, with everything being on the digital domain, this poses a lot of points of access for cyber attacks and for illegal activity. What are the most common cyber attacks on a worldwide scale, also applicable to Macau? So it's emails related with phishing, so phishing attempts to infect systems, to try to extract information, the sensitive information, and then to be used for illegal purposes. Ransomwares, when hackers extract data, either they delete the data from the company's servers and they store it somewhere else and then they demand a ransom, or they just encrypt the data and then demand a ransom in order to give the key to decrypt the information. Or malware, these malicious softwares that can be viruses, backdoors to allow the access of a hacker to the daily activity of a company. So these are the, I would say, the legal landscape, the cyber tech landscape that will be most prone to exist in Macau throughout the next year. Some statistics about cybersecurity issues in Macau. As I've mentioned before, critical infrastructure operators are instructed to report, they have to report any cyber attacks, any threats. And in the past year, they reported an average of more than 6,000 attacks per day. This is an impressive number. So this shows how it's becoming a more serious issue and something that we need to address. Also, public figures were subject to an attack where they were demanded a ransom not to publish inappropriate pictures, where they use their faces superimposed on fake pictures. And even government websites were shut down for more than 45 minutes, with CTM reporting that its access was blocked for more than 3 hours. Also, on a daily basis, we see the police issuing these warnings. So we have this case of last year and even from last week, celebrity fraudulent investment scams or airline scams or shopping scams. These are all phishing techniques to try to collect the user's information, when it's nowadays, with the development of the technology, it's difficult to rely on the source. So with all of these generative AI tools, people are not aware if this is a true or a fake source, so they provide their information and then it's going to be used for illegal purposes and for illegal gains. So not only critical infrastructures are subject of threats and attacks, also these cyber criminals target small and medium companies. And as we've heard Dr. Nuno saying on his introduction, nowadays all companies are subject to attacks, and there's a high risk of small and medium companies of being subject to an attack, with studies showing that companies with fewer than 100 employees face a 350% more chance of being subject to an attack, because they don't have the right policies, they don't have the right structure to defend against these threats. Again, we have ransomwares that comprise 35% of all attacks. Cloud security, when you have your data stored in servers, they're also prone to cyber attacks, and with phishing attempts representing most of the attacks on a cybersecurity landscape, with an increase of more than 1,000% last year. And this because of the generative AI tools. It's it is getting really difficult to understand the authenticness of a picture, of a website. So more attention should be paid to these sources. And why are SMEs more prone to attacks? They hold a lot of valuable information, not only their trade secrets, their know-how, their intellectual property, but their private and confidential information about their customers. And they lack a good policy, good cybersecurity plan to be put in motion. Some of them rely on solutions that are available online, but these solutions are not tailor made to the company needs. So there will be always some systems where they'll be lacking a proper attention, and they'll have their systems exposed, their networks vulnerable to attacks. Also, they don't provide the proper training and formation to their staff and to their team. So, and also they tend not to be always aware of the full legal landscape. So they are not aware of all the new laws and regulations that are enacted, and also not aware of the new threats that are constantly being created and that pose a risk to their business. So what can SMEs do? Well, just to adopt policies that can safeguard their company and safeguard their interests. So policies or measures that allow them to abide by the legal requirements that are in force, have people, IT, techniques, experts that can provide the tools necessary to protect their company, and to provide training and advice to their team and staff. How can a cybersecurity desk help? Well, it's to provide a tailored service. So regarding of your industry, of your needs, of your size, of your scope of activity, you'll have a team of experts that will help you, that will allow you to comply with the laws and regulations that are in force. In case of insurance, and we'll have our partners here and colleagues at Lockton to tell us a bit more about these options later on, but to have all of the areas will be covered, and you'll be able to have a full guidance tailored to your company. This will effectively benefit the small or medium company, because you'll have in its headquarters a central hub of experts. So you'll have IT technicians, you have legal counsels, you'll be having insurance providers that will provide a continuous monitoring of your company. They will have top experts on every field to advise you and to provide tailored solutions, and also to train and educate your staff and employees. So having a cybersecurity desk is one of the best measures and policies to have in today's digital world. You'll have a tailored support and assistance 24 hours a day, with tools in motion to prevent, to identify, and to react in face of a cyber attack. You'll be having continuous training of your employees and staff members. Then you'll be able to prevent losses and prevent the loss of customers. You'll have a guide on the do's and don'ts in the case of a cyber threat, and then you'll be able to fully navigate this digital domain and implement the cybersecurity policies that are required today to conduct business on this online world. As an example, in today's domain, in this vast sea of the internet, it's not advisable to go and navigate without a skilled captain, because we don't know the risks that are involved. We don't have the right tools. With the captain conducting our company's and and helping us navigating this digital domain. We have the guidance, we have the expertise on what to do when we face a threat, if we face any dangers. So with a cybersecurity captain, you'll be sure to have the best defense possible to conduct your business and to safeguard your company's interests and to safeguard the information of your clients. And this concludes my presentation. I'll now have our colleagues from Lockton to move to theirs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So first of all, thanks for inviting us here. We're thrilled to be here today, and I'm real happy to be in Macau talking about cyber insurance or cybersecurity. So my name is Freddie. I'm from Lockton, Hong Kong. So we have prepared a few slides for today's presentation. So hopefully through the presentation, you'll get a better understanding of what cyber insurance is and how cyber insurance can help your business. So, but before we get started, here's just a quick introduction of who we are. So Lockton, we are the world's largest privately held insurance broker. We are not public, so that gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of how we serve our clients as we understand like different clients have different needs. So in Greater China, we have 3 offices, one in Beijing, one in Shanghai and Guangdong. And then in Taiwan, we have Taipei and Kaohsiung. And then of course we have Hong Kong. And then 3 years ago, we opened our Macau branch to serve our clients in Macau. So here's today's agenda. We have 3 sections. I'll cover section 1 and 2, and my team leader, Melody, she will cover section 3. Section 1, we'll talk about case studies. We have 2 case studies tonight, one from Hong Kong and one international case study. And then cyber market trend, we'll talk about, actually Polo has covered kind of similar content, but we'll talk about the most targeted industry in terms of cyber attacks, and then we'll look at the most common threat types in the cyberspace. And then Melody will talk about how cyber insurance can help your business. Oh, so before we get started, here's a quick quiz. So get your smartphone out, scan the QR code. It's just a simple question, don't be alarmed. So this is an email. Do you think this is a real email or this is a fake email? So just imagine, or phishing email. So just imagine a scenario that you took your client out for a nice business dinner, and then you came back to the office, you did your expense, and then you received this email from a bank saying that, oh, click here that your money is ready to be reimbursed. So you have 10 seconds or 15. Is someone counting? So Red, can you switch to the results page? So, well, we got 10 results in 9 of you said it's not real. 1 says it's real. Can you raise your hand if you think it's real? Who said it's real? Okay, well, it's anonymous. So actually, it is, you can switch back. Actually, it is a real email. So it is a real email. It actually comes from my office, from my company's bank. So every time I did my expense, I would receive this email. And I would question myself, is this actually a phishing email or real email? So I always call out my IT department and ask them if should I click on it or not. So what does it tell you? It tells you that like even though it looks real, it could be fake. Or it could, if it looks fake, it could be real. So it's very important for all of you, like when you're in your office, to click it before, just look at it carefully before you click on any emails, because it could cause damage to your company in terms of cyber attacks. So can we switch back to the presentation? So we're going into section 1 case study. First of all, we have Hong Kong Consumer Council. So in September 2023, Consumer Council published this message on their website saying that system is compromised and the services have been suspended. So what caused them to post this on their website? So on the 20th of September 2023, they were attacked by a ransomware group, and 80% of the computer system of the Consumer Council were damaged. And about how much? Like 8,000 of the subscribers of their Choice magazine, the data is leaked. So what's leaked? So their credit card information, their name, their phone numbers, their address was leaked. So what did the hacker want? Of course, they want money, right? So they asked for $500,000 in terms of ransom payment, and they threatened Consumer Counsel if they don't pay the $500,000 ransom payment, they'll raise it to $700,000. This is something they always do, right? So if you do something, I'll threaten you. Otherwise, it's just a tactic of the hackers. They just want to create like an urgent situation in order to get the ransom payment. So what did the Consumer Counsel, what did they do? So they immediately engaged IT forensics to contain the damage, to find out what the root cause was. And they also called the police, and then they informed the police and the Office of the Privacy Commissioner for Personal Data in Hong Kong. At the end, no ransom payment was made, and the cost of the breach wasn't disclosed. After the incident, the chief executive of the Consumer Counsel said that it's quite hard to have 100% bulletproof system that is safe from cyber attacks. So what does it mean? So it means when doesn't matter how much money you spend on your IT system, the hackers can always find a way to hack into your system. So and then the PCBD, the Commissioner Office, did an investigation after this incident. The incident was actually caused by the failure to enable MFA, which is the multi-factor authentication of the remote access. So what does it mean? So it means that when the employee took the computer home and worked from home, and they tried to log in without MFA, without the multi-factor authentication, and then the hacker had a chance to just hack into the system. So remember, MFA is a very, very important cybersecurity control for all companies, actually. And then the other thing is, according to that report, the Consumer Counsel actually stored the data on a testing server without enough security control. So the hacker actually had a chance to hack into the testing server and obtain the sensitive data from that server. All right, quick questions again. So what do you think is the major financial costs of a cyber attacks? Could it be business interruption? Let's say if you're attacked, your system is down, and then you can't do your business, you lose your profits, you lose your revenue, or can it be notification costs? What is notification cost? So let's say if you have customers, and then the data is leaked, and then you have to inform your customer. It could be a company, it could be individuals, and you might have to send out emails, you have to call them, or you might have to send out letters. And then data recovery, you always hear that after a data attack, the data could be damaged or even gone. So IT forensics are required to recover the data. Loss of talent. So I've seen some cases that after cyber attack, the company lost so much money, they actually have to downsize, they have to fire people. Legal expenses, and then or bodily injury or property damage. Did you see Paulo? So I'll give you another. You can pick more than one, actually. Yeah. Are we all good? Okay, Red, could you? This one. Not this one. Can you go back? What are the major financial costs? The one on the right. So most of you said that's too small. Business interruption, that's correct. And then the notification cost, that's correct as well. Data recovery, correct. Loss of talent, not usually, that's good. Legal expenses. It's expensive. Yes, that's correct as well. So property and body damage, not so much, because cyber attacks don't usually involve like getting your body injured or your property damaged. But all the others could be correct answers. So yeah. Give yourself a round of applause. So well done. So can we go back to the presentation? All right, here's the second case study, is Medibank Australia. Medibank is actually one of the largest privately held insurance provider in Australia. So in October 2022, their employees' credentials was stolen, and then the hackers was able to steal data. It was a lot of data. We're talking about 200 gigabytes. About 10 million of the past and present customers' data was leaked, including their medical records, their date of birth, the names, address, and then the hacker, of course, they want money, right? So this time they did something different. So they asked for $10 million in terms of ransom payment, and they actually released the data on dark web. And they threatened or encouraged the Medibank shareholders to sell their stocks in order to push the stocks down, and then in order to force them to pay the ransom. So what did Medibank do? So millions of emails, as I mentioned earlier, that almost 10 million individuals were affected. So millions of emails were sent out to notify the affected individuals. The system were finally back up and running 2 months after the attack. So you can imagine it is a prolonged process. It takes a long time for the system to be completely recovered. And then at the end, according to CEO, he said that you can really never trust a criminal. So that's why they decided not to pay the ransom. So how much did he actually? Oh, here's the actual message that the hacker posted on the dark web. So it says that the data will be published within 24 hours, and they will keep posting the data. So another scenario of them creating an urgent situation, forcing the victim to pay the ransom. So how much did it actually cost Medibank? So according to the 2023-2024 annual report, it cost them 46 million Australian dollars. So that includes their administrative costs, employee benefits, extra technology and marketing, but it didn't stop there. The following year, they spent another almost 40 million on IT related costs and legal expenses as well. So we can imagine if you're hacked for, well, but this is an extreme size, right? But it could be really costly and it could have a big negative impact on your financial statement. So what's this page? Okay, go back to here. So according to a court report, a document, this incident was actually caused by the lack of the use of MFA again. So the lack of use of MFA actually allowed the hackers to hack into the system. So remember, MFA is very important. So Paulo mentioned earlier, Macau has a critical infrastructure law. So Hong Kong has something very similar. It's not an actual law yet, but it is going to be soon. So the bill aims to protect the security of computer system of critical infrastructure, and then there will be a commission office to oversee this regime, and then there would be reporting requirements as well. I will talk about the reporting requirements in the next slide. And then, so what's considered infrastructure? We have energy, banking sector and financial sectors, air travel, land travel, IT, what else? Communications and broadcasting, and other organizations that are responsible for social and economic activities as well. So here is the reporting requirement. First of all, they have to have an emergency response plan in place. And for serious cybersecurity incidents, they have to report the incident within 12 hours. But for less serious incidents, they have 48 hours. Oh, and then they have to carry out an IT security fire drill at least every 2 years, and they have to have the assessment of their IT system once every year, I think. So penalty is very similar to the Macau's law, actually. So for non-compliance, the penalty could range from 500,000 to 5 million Hong Kong dollars. If it's a continuing offense, there's a daily penalty as well. The daily penalty is from 50,000 to 100,000 Hong Kong dollars. So this is just a high-level introduction of the law. So if you're interested to see more, you can log on to the Hong Kong government website. Last question, I promise. Last question. So what to do in the event of a cyber attack? So like you heard what I talked about, like, cyber attack, and then what would you do? Like if your company is hacked. So do you contact your IT department, or you contact your company lawyer, call the police, or inform your employees right away, or offer compensation and settlement to the hackers, or shut down the system? Again, you can pick more than one answer. Okay, right, could you switch? Yeah, middle one. Ah, finally, we got a perfect score here. Yeah. So, yeah. So actually, it really depends on whether your company has a cyber insurance policy in place or not. Let's say if you have a cyber insurance policy in place, the first thing you should do is there's always a 24/7 hotline provided by the so-called Breach Council. Melody is going to talk about what a Breach Council is later. But there's always 24/7 hotline. There's email. You can contact your insurance provider right away. You can contact your insurance broker right away. But let's say if you don't have a cyber insurance policy in place, then you could actually contact your IT department if you're not so sure. So let's say if you go into office and there's a pop-up message saying that your system has been hacked, so you should always contact your IT department, and then contact your company lawyers. So you don't know whether it breached any local regulations, right? So it's always a good idea to contact your lawyers. And then call the police, not so much. I'm not sure, so I wouldn't say not so much, but calling the police, they don't really give you the immediate solutions right away, but you could, I guess. And then inform your employees. Debatable. So if you are a small company, less than 5 people, let's say, I can just tell everyone to shut down their computer, right? But let's say if you are multinationals, you don't really send out emails saying, okay, well, shut down your system because you don't want to create any panic, right? So this is kind of debatable. Like, depends on the operation of your companies. If you're a smaller company, I would say yes, but if you're like multinationals, maybe not so much. This is why don't offer any compensation to hackers, because it's no guarantee, right? So pay the ransom, then they may not do whatever they promised earlier. Shut down the system, this could help too, because you don't want to the damage to spread to other systems as well. So it's pretty good. So could you please switch back? So that was the last question. All right, I'm going to really quickly talk about cyber market trends. So this is a heat map created by, the information actually comes from a research company. The research company did a survey. They asked over 3,000 risk management experts from over 90 countries or territories. They asked these people, like, what are the top risks of your business facing? So here are the results from 2020 to 2024. You can see that cyber risk and business interruption, they're the top two, right? With cyber risk, like in 4 of the 5 years in the top spots. And then you have other risks as well, like natural disasters, like with pandemic, and the natural disaster includes like flooding with global warming and pandemic in 2021, 2022, and then you have like market developments. One thing is very interesting, legislation and regulation. So the legislation could change, right? With the trade war, the US could just change the regulations and legislation. But yeah, cyber risk obviously is the top risk, and it's time to think about whether your company is well prepared for cyber risk. Are you well equipped, or if there's cyber attack, it could impact your company like in a very negative way. So here's the most targeted industry by sector. Here, each column shows the first 3 quarters of 2024. As you can see from the left to the right, financial services is number 1, followed by manufacturing, and then professional services is number 1, followed by manufacturing, and then financial services. So actually, financial services and professional services, they have some similarities. So they both hold a lot of sensitive data, including sensitive client data or sensitive client documents, or intellectual properties or financial records. So the difference is that most of the time, financial services such as banks or asset management companies, they are more sophisticated in terms of IT security control versus professional service, let's say accounting firms or consulting firms. They could be seen less sophisticated in terms of IT controls. That's why you see the difference in terms of the percentage. Professional services are more prone to cyber attack. On the other hand, manufacturers, they don't have a lot of valuable data, but their production lines do rely on computer system these days, right? So you can imagine once their computer system is compromised or hacked, if the production stops, then they will lose a lot of revenue. They can't sell their product. They lose the revenue. They lose their profit. So that's why manufacturer could be another target as well. And then we have retail. They have a lot of credit card information or personal membership data. And then we have tech and telecom company as well. So Paul did mention this a little bit about the common threat types. So by far, ransomware and phishing are the most common threat type that we've seen in the market. So why? Because ransomware, the hackers can always request for a large lump sum of money, right? And then phishing is just cheap. So they can do it so economically, so efficiently, because they can just send out hundreds of thousands of emails to different users, and then they are hoping for one of your employees sitting here to click on the link and then download something, and then they hack into the system and lock your system or steal data from your company. It's just a very economical way to carry out this attack. And then we have cloud-based attack and denial of service attack. Cloud-based attack is just something, a lot of companies are more, they rely on cloud-based services more and more heavily. For example, they want to store their data using their cloud so they don't have to store data on site. They can save costs from not buying hard drives or equipment to store their own data. So they now use cloud-based services. But a lot of companies at the same time, let's say they use one cloud server or one cloud provider. If that cloud is compromised or hacked, the hackers will be able to get into the cloud to get information at the same time from multiple companies. It's kind of like one stone killing thousands of birds. So and then denial of service. Have any one of you heard denial of service, and do you know what it is? So some of you heard of it. Yeah. So basically, let's say imagine you are the owner of a furniture store, and you have a physical store and you have an online website to sell the furniture. And let's say over half of your revenue comes from the online sales come from your online website. So one day your website receives a lot of traffic asking for information, inquiries, asking for quotations, or just refreshing. People can just keep refreshing the website until your website is not able to perform the services it was supposed to because of there's just too much traffic flooding the server or the website. So that's why it's called denial of service. So now, but with the help of AI, it's just becoming more powerful. So let's just take phishing as an example. So a couple of years ago, you could still be able to spot grammatical mistakes or spelling mistakes in a phishing email. Now with the AI, it becomes really authentic. You can't really tell whether it's a real email or phishing email. So that's why in the previous heat map you can see that cyber risk is one of the top risks, and I expect personally cyber risk will still be one of the top risks in business. So here's my last slide. So how much does a data breach cost? So this is the information provided by IBM. It comes from IBM data breach report in 2024. So according to IBM, the global average total cost of data breach is almost $4.5 million. So, and it has been going up in the last few years. So let's say if you look at from 2020 to 2024, it went up from 3.9 to 4.9. So it was almost over 25% increase. But you might argue, so we are SMEs, right? How could the loss be that big? But then if you break it down into per record, data breach per record is $160, $170 in 2024. Let's say you experience data breach and then you leak your company, 200 records were leaked. So according to this, it could be $32,000 to $34,000 US. So it's still a big chunk of money for SMEs. So that's all from me. So Melody is going to talk about cyber insurance, how cyber insurance can help your business.
Thank you. Thank you, Freddie. So this will be the last topic, a little about insurance. I hope people will not get bored about insurance. So actually, going down. cyber insurance gets lots of attention because of, in this environment of people are really concerned about this insurance, but how cyber insurance can help you. So we find out throughout the process of purchasing cyber insurance, it's not like buying car insurance, you fill the form of buying insurance. So the cyber insurance is only a process that we work with underwriters, client, and during the whole process, actually we find it really helped the client to raise awareness and the readiness in the cybersecurity measurements. And also it will assist the client in compliance with various regulations in the data privacy and the cybersecurity law. I will touch briefly on the coverage. So the first part of the policy has two parts. The first part we call first party loss. In the insurance world, first party means the insured, so the policyholder. And there's a third party liability part. So third party means any other parties except for the insured and the insurer. So the first party losses is actually direct loss of the policyholder. So remember, Freddie mentioned how much it will cost for an average data breach. So it includes so that 4.48 million. So that will include incident responses like forensic investigations, IT forensic, data recoveries, notification, whether it's local. If you are a conglomerate, you probably will involve lots of regulators in various jurisdictions. Account and credit monitoring costs. If the business involves lots of credit card information, then they probably will provide monitoring the credit card information of the users, as well as for a big corporation, they will do some public relation costs. In today's world, public relations no longer in the form of press conference. In the old days, you probably see large corporate will have press conference, but in today's world, the press relation cost is normally how you manage your results in a Google or in a Xiaohongshu or in these kind of very popular social media search. So when you type certain company, for example, a big company got a big cyber incident, when they type that name, for example, we call it, what's the biggest law, say Swire or Swire Property, right? If you type Swire and data breach, they will probably in the first 10 pages of the Google. But with the public relation cost, they managed to put it in the back of the search, okay? So that's today's public relation cost. And also for a manufacturing company, as we mentioned, as Freddie mentioned, manufacturing is number two target of the hackers. And if a production line was down for like 3 days or 7 days, it will cause lots of financial losses to the manufacturing companies and will be covered under the policy. And also the ransom payments. Normally, insurers or lawyers will not encourage the payments of ransomware, but in reality, oftentimes, even if the data, for example, we come across a client that they can recover the data of the customer data, but they still want to buy back because these are private hospitals, so they have lots of sensitive information of the top rich, people of Hong Kong. So they don't want to have this information be leaked out. So they say, yeah, we can recover the data, we can recover the system, but we still want to buy back the information. So in this scenario, insurers will still pay the ransom, and also they will engage some ransomware negotiators to negotiate the ransom payments. And the second part, as I mentioned earlier, is the third-party liability and also the defense costs represented by the law firms. So it will include regulatory investigations. For example, you have notification reporting obligation to PCPD in Hong Kong or USSECs, and then they might have some or GDPRs. They may have a regulatory investigation, and you will engage lawyers. And also in certain jurisdictions, I think Hong Kong, Macau is in general benign in the litigation environment, but in Australia or in the US, they have class action regime where lawyers are extremely aggressive in pursuing you for the liabilities on behalf of the the individuals that the information leakage, information being leaked out. So there would be third-party liability claim. And also for the media liability is like the hackers came into your website and post something anti-racism or whatever messages, and you might have some claims like that. So insurance gives you quite broad coverages, but the one of the main features of the cyber insurance policies is every cyber insurance policy will provide you a breach counsel or breach. In the early days, they called breach response coach, which oftentimes is a forensic or forensic company. But today, the trend becomes insurance will use breach counsel, which is a typical law firm, an attorney with cybersecurity expertise, and also your communication will be protected under the legal professional privilege. So that's why they're moving from a forensic, your initial conversation moving from a forensic or IT company to a law firm, especially for that legal privilege. But at the back, breach counsel, because every cyber incident or data incident could be different, right? In terms of the jurisdiction you work in, your industry, and the data you hold. So every company will engage different parties. But at the back, insurers have already engaged or have the agreement with IT forensic, public relations, credit monitoring, notification center, and also additional legal services required. So the breach counsel will be the one to coordinating all the services at the back. This is actually very important for SME business, as we mentioned earlier, because some of SME business, they probably do not have incident response plan. They don't have their privacy lawyers. So insurance can give it's not just a replace, but can give you a peace of mind in terms of a cyber incident. So the breach counsel can really guide you through in terms of a cyber incident. But for large business like critical infrastructure or casinos in Macau, I think because the business is quite sophisticated, they might already have a privacy lawyers or data breach lawyer or their own counsel. So in this case, the large business can still work with their own lawyers, but make sure that the lawyers will look over the shoulders of the panel counsels engaged by the insurers to make sure they handle the claims properly. So these are the key benefits of the cyber insurance. So oftentimes people ask me, because you're talking about it, cyber risk is really serious in today's world, and it costs you lots of money, losses. But is that very expensive? In fact, it really depends on your company size, your number of record, and the revenue. Of course, the historic claims, whether you have proper employment training, also whether these sounds or very good cyber IT hygiene, IT practice of the company. For example, MFA, EDRs, endpoint protection is viewed like the minimum requirements of their business. And also how much limit you're buying. So we've done actually with our portfolio range from SME business to large corporate business. So SMEs can include law firms. We have some in Hong Kong. We have some sole proprietary law firm, a law firm only with 3 partners with limited data. So that will only cost you like less than 20K Hong Kong. And also some asset management company, hedge fund companies, they don't have lots of because they don't do retail investors. They don't have lots of data, but they rely on custodians to do trading. So their policy also only costs like $3,000. But for large corporations like hotels, we also handle hotels because hotel is oftentimes being targeted because they have lots of customer data, and especially conglomerates, almost all big names like Shangri-La's, Marriott, everyone have cyber claims, and their policy can be really, really expensive. So it really depends on your industry, your revenue, your jurisdictions, right? If you operate in single jurisdiction like Hong Kong or Macau only, so it can be quite, it's really affordable. But for a conglomerate, you operate in the US, Australia, EU is actually a very tricky jurisdiction because they are all, except for the UK, which they have the data privacy law, then the rest of UK is all under the GDPR. But the GDPR you're talking about could be more than 10 jurisdictions, 10 of data data authorities. So, for example, if you have a GDPR breach, you might notify France, Netherlands, all these small countries in the European, in the EU, and every regulator might have additional questions or different views on the GDPR. So EU is actually a quite tricky jurisdictions. So this is how we wrap up our presentation. So we welcome questions. Can be English, Portuguese, Mandarin, and Cantonese.
Just one thing I wanted to. So Melody and I kept talking about IT security measures, MFAs. So we have this slide here actually shows the cybersecurity best practice from an insurer's perspective. So you can on this slide you can see that what kind of ID controls that insurers are looking for.
Yeah,
so
you can take a copy if you're
we'll just pass it around if you're interested. Questions?
Any questions? If you have any questions, please raise your hand, and a microphone will be given to you.
I have a question.
So the first one to break the ice.
Yes.
Right.
So in Macau, because you're introducing your cybersecurity help desk, so like if I was an SME owner, so how do I engage a law firm like CNC to provide that kind of services?
Well, we have our normal means of communication, and any company that is interested in our services on that area, if it addresses us, will be redirected to one of our cybersecurity desk elements. So after that, will depend on the needs of each specific company, because we tailor our services and of course our prices according with the needs of each company, because not all the companies are created equal for this kind of cybersecurity, because as you yourselves told in your presentation, some companies are better prepared to this kind of incidents than others, and some will expect from us some services, and others will require just other services. Of course, when it comes to data breach, more or less what we offer is the breach counsel service, right? If the client needs, when the time comes. But we are trying to offer to our clients also a prevention and planning service, and that will depend of the needs of each client at the process.
Cool. Any other questions about the coverage, cyber insurance, or? No. Victor, any questions?
I think one thing, now I'm just giving you back the question, because I think one thing that most most prospective clients and potential clients are interested, because having an insurance against these kind of threats and these kind of issues is very important. But I think a lot of people will ask themselves, will this be costly in terms of price? How it's going to affect their businesses? How is something that is accessible to SMEs in a way that they can afford it, or how do you define your or you construct your price for these kind of companies?
Because we are the broker, so we normally will, on behalf of every client, we will exercise all the cyber insurance providers in the market, and the underwriters will do proper underwriting. For example, looking at your cybersecurity infrastructure. Also, they will assess your revenue size, because the bigger your revenue size, the more loss you might suffer in terms of the network interruption, right? And then is your number of the record. As Freddie mentioned earlier, there's every loss of one data costs like 120 something USD. So these are some basic numbers, formulas they will calculate. And also there's lots of what you call service providers. One of the key tools we use is called CyberCube. CyberCube is a global cyber analytics platform. So they will actually run some tests based on your in terms of data breach, how much loss your company will cost. We only key in two data. One is the revenue, and the second is the number of record, right? But of course, they will ask how solid is your cybersecurity system. But even if we skip that too, just based on revenue and PII, they will run out some they mock the test, right? Simulations, and then they will tell you 95% of your losses will at this number of financial losses, and also 95% of your network interruption will cause you this financial loss. So we based on these numbers will give our client recommend the insurance coverage with our client. Actually, you can see from if a small business, they normally only recommend 5 million Hong Kong to 2 million Hong Kong, 5 million Hong Kong, which is equivalent to the Macau MOP, right? To 5 million MOP. Of course, for large corporation, they come up with USD 20 million or 30 million, right? And what we find out is because we just got a notification from a SME cyber claim on last Thursday. So this it's association actually, but they have they have quite a number of data, and how they find out is KPMG is I think it's their service provider. They've been monitoring the dark web of the data, right? And they find out there's some leakage of that particular client in the dark web, because dark web is selling the customer's data, right? So they find potential a suspicious cyber attack happened to a client, and then they actually already, because they find out it's our client, and then they call the client, the client called us. IBM is already sending them the invoice saying I will do this for you, and this is the expenses. Guess how much is it?
Only IT forensic.
Only IT forensic without notifying PCPDs. It's around 250K Hong Kong dollar to 300K. And then they have obligation to reporting to the PCPD, and the PCPD might ask them questions, and there are some of the reporting, some legal costs. So we assume the case probably will end up 500K Hong Kong at the minimum, without involving ransom payment. If there's any ransom payment, it'll be more, right? But I think these days people try not to pay the ransom unless it's really necessary. As I said, the previous case is a private hospital. So if there's no ransom payment involved, normally it will cost 500K. But how much you pay for this kind of business? How much they pay? 10K to 15 Hong Kong on annual basis. So it's still a good deal, right? If you have an incident. Of course, no one wants a claim.
Request to ask a question. I put forward to Freddie. Well, do you mind to elaborate more about the Bridge Council? Who are they?
Oh, that's her slide.
Oh, okay.
Just to put it back.
So,
Yeah.
So the international law firms, they oftentimes engage international law firms. For example, in Hong Kong, they are top 4 international law firms specializing in data privacy: RPCs, Kennedy's, Klein & Co, and also Mayer Brown. They are international law firms. They have presence in the UK, in the US, in Hong Kong, in EU, and in Australia, right? So as I mentioned, if you are a conglomerate, and you have many jurisdictions, it can be really expensive. And also, they provide 24/7 hotlines. So it could be a conglomerate Hong Kong branch find an incident, they call the hotline, then they will say, oh, at the Hong Kong time, right? And then could be a UK branch find out the incident, they call the UK time. So that's why it has to be a 24/7 operation basis. But of course, these bridge councils not covering every jurisdiction. For example, the Mayer Brown, they don't have China. And also candidates don't have China, they don't have Macau. So that's why in terms of certain jurisdictions, especially post-incidents, they'll work with the local law firms to advise on the local law. But the bridge council oftentimes, if we buy a standard cyber policies, it will be the international law firms representing. Yeah.
So these are covered by the cyber insurance, right?
Yes, this is.
Yeah. So the cost of this bridge council is appointed by the insurance company.
Yes.
Included in the premium.
Yes. Of course, but bridge council is when you have a actual or suspicious cyber incident. But what the CNC, Apollo can provide is, of course, also including the pre-laws preventions. So there will be some slight differences, but of course there'll be overlap and can work together with the insurers. And also we mentioned this IT forensic. For the large corporations, they oftentimes have their own IT firms or forensic IT incident vendors. And although the insurers will give you the vendor's name, and oftentimes you can have them to agree the pre-agreed vendors. So when they are familiar with these IT vendors, but the insurers actually will adding on not just one vendors. Sometimes they're adding 3 or 5 IT vendors in terms of forensic, because there are some vendors, because for example some zero-day attack, these are some vendors that are really strong in that area, and some of the, say, ransomware phishing, there could be some other vendors that are very strong. So the vendor list is actually quite intensive. They try to cover all scenarios, and also oftentimes they'll be willing to adapting the client's needs if they have their own familiar vendors at a reasonable price, at reasonable rate. Because insurers have the agreement with all of them on global basis. That's why they have a really better rate. Comparing to a SME business, try to engage a IT forensic, it could be a very different rate.
I don't know whether I should ask this question or not. Well, does CNC include this bridge council in Macau? Are you included in this bridge council?
It depends. It depends on, as I was saying, it depends on the needs of our clients. But we are also working locally and available to work locally with the international bridge council. So we do the connection between we can do the connection between the local SME companies on these specific cases with the bridge councils, or even directly with the incident technicians providers if needed, because we have those contacts for root case investigation to IT investigation to all these RP professionals in terms of public relations, because it's a very important part of on a breach incident that parties also cover the area of the communication, and there are firms that take care of that very professionally, because sometimes it's very important to be ahead of and passing the information to the public in a way that is best for the companies, instead of letting it spread without any control.
Thank you.
Oh, hi. Thanks for the presentation. I thought it was very interesting. So I wanted to ask, obviously Macau, the economic fabric of Macau is made of many SMEs, but most of them in food and beverage with very low online presence. So obviously, I wanted to ask, in terms of the more vulnerable areas, well, what kind of companies would you say that are the ones that have more to lose in Macau? Obviously, in the chart it says professional and financial companies. So I imagine banks, hospitals in Macau, and in terms of the gaming operators, that are obviously the biggest employers and the largest companies on the city. In terms of hotels and gaming, do you know how they're preparing for this kind of attacks? What do they do, and how vulnerable are they for this kind of attacks?
I think if you're talking about a retail like Tantan or business, they probably don't have much cyber exposure. But of course, but I think the trend will be lots of more and more business will be online. They were using, whether it's online ordering. I think what I see the trend in Hong Kong is even a small restaurant these days, because I'm not sure about Macau, but I think Hong Kong is very hard to hire people. So more and more restaurants, when you check out these days, they'll give you a QR code. You scan it, and then you just pay online. It will keep you all the information, your information, credit cards, and then they will send you the bill, right? I think that's how the small business will use their services. Of course, I don't know how it operated back. It could be a pure service provider when the restaurant do not keep any information. But it could be also they keep some customer information for the future that they were sending some promoting emails or WhatsApp messages. So it depends on their data policy or data retention policies. They might still keep the customer data, and if the system is bad or it's not that strong enough, they've been hacked, and they will still have that loss of the personal data exposure, which they will still need to report into the local regulators. Of course, for the hotels, casinos, before this wave, I think we saw this wave, the cyber attack becomes really rampant after COVID. Before COVID, you hear some data leakage, data incident, but was not that massive. It was really during the COVID time. People start working from home. People start to use all the VPNs, right? Because in the past, you work in the office, it's quite safe. It's the internet. But when you do the VPN, like the VPN, unless you implement the MFA, it's not that safe, right? So I think that we see a massive, really rampant cyber attack during that period. And hotels, casinos are the first batch of the victims, because they pay lots of ransoms. Even in the US, they pay lots of ransom, they lost a lot of data, and they be fined. A few hotels been fined in the US or by the GDPR 2 times. Lots of money. I think it's on the internet. I didn't show it here. But of course, after that, everyone is really ramping up their own cybersecurities. But I think the challenges for the hotels different from the banks, because I think the staff training is not sufficient. And also in the hotel business, in some of the retail business, the entry level could be quite low. I think the banking level, I think I'm not, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the banking level, they probably, the hiring standard is higher, but the servicing, the hotel level, they could be lower, right? People probably lack of the IT or much education background, and they can just click the link. Even if you give the training, they still don't get it. So I think that could be one of the key exposures for this kind of business. But also don't forget, there could be some bad employees, some malicious employees. They click the thing, they click the link on purpose, okay? And also sometimes we've seen the IT department is not very happy with the company. They work with external hackers to create. It's not for the traditional business. It's actually for the crypto companies. For some of the company trading crypto, the smart contract code, they work with external hackers to steal the Bitcoin, steal the money out of it. So it's actually quite complicated environment. Yeah.
Just one thing to remember, just remember that like hackers, they don't always want money.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just do it out of hate. Like if you fire an employee, they just want to hack your system to just take a revenge because they're just so mad at you. So it's not always about money. And the other point is, as long as you're connected to the outside world, if your company has a lot of data, if you rely on computer system to generate your revenue, no matter how big you are, how small you are at risk of a cyber attack. Let's say if you are just running a restaurant without using computer system, you always take cash, you always use like handwriting for ordering, then of course you have no cyber exposure, right? But if you're connected to the outside world with data, with like a lot of processes that relies on computer systems, then of course you're at risk.
Hi, my name is Alex. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting. Now, further from that gentleman's inquiry, the question is, Macau, apart from all the casinos, hotels, governments, banks, we are mainly SME.
Yes.
And our SME are really tiny SME, not 1,000 people, not even 100. Could be 20, maybe even 10, Most of our SMEs are around that size. We talked a lot about data leakage and all this, but I myself as a SME owner, I'm more concerned about business interruption. How can you help me to bring back my business and back on running? I don't have my own, a team of IT with 10 people that work 24 hours to help me to bring it back up, and I might only use cloud services as my server, and I outsource my IT needs to an IT firm. I don't know where that leakage comes from. I just know that my system is not working and I cannot do any business. For example, like, just now you talked about the examples like Medibank or maybe, big organization and stuff, but they are not quite the same as the SME. SME, for example, like, if I'm Foodpanda, for example, I'm purely just an online platform. If you break down or you hack on my system there to stop me from working, that cost me, the damage that cost me is a lot more than the data that you can get. So if I am one of those kind of platform, big or small, and my concern or my question to you is, if I purchase or I have this sort of insurance cover in place, when these sort of things happen to me, what help can I get? How quickly can you help me? I guess that's more important than this Mr. Chen that ordered 10 chicken rice for me, like, every week. That doesn't bother me, What bothers me is when can you bring it back, my business up and running again?
It also depends on your original cyber IT infrastructure. Because I think I've read the data, because we distributed the paper, right? So the minimum requirement like MFA, PAM things. So if you have a good system in place, of course, you'll still be hacked. But the time you recover is much quicker than a lousy system. Put in I think these are some data. They're saying for a system with EDR, you can recover the average recovery day is like 7 days. But if a system without EDR, it could be 21 days. So there are some IBM, the IT expert always do this kind of statistics. Of course, they're selling their EDR services, right, for the cyber. But I think that's quite true. Of course, if you outsource this, but you still need to, for SME business today, I think they own the system. They need to, not everyone is an IT expert, but I think they still need to know the minimum requirement they need to have a proper system. So the better the system, the quickly they will recover. So it really depends on. It's not really. It's no KPI like the system how quickly you can recover. So it's very hard to put this kind of KPI in place. But I think the original system does matter. But insurance can also cover if you cannot do business for 5 days or 7 days, the loss of revenue. It's also part of the coverage offered by the insurance. But to answer your question, we've actually spoken to lots of online platforms. Like Foodpanda, they're actually very confident with their own system. They think we're not going to be hacked. It could, especially the China-based internet firms. They think, we're actually very good at our system.
The famous firewall of China, if you have heard the term.
It could be, right?
We
but
have
of course,
our own team of hackers to try.
Yeah, they said they have good, but anyway, it could be they don't believe insurance. That's fine. But I think everyone have different thoughts. But for SMEs, we actually have worked with some of the SME law firms. They only have 2 or 3 partners. They have lousy system. they still do fax. They still do. They don't have the system. But we said to them, there's something. Insurance is no replacement of your IT system. But I think it's a risk transfer solution. But I think you still need to be aware that every business these days need to have some of the proper.
Yeah, like to answer your question, so if you're an SME owner, if you're hacked and then your business stop running, so you lose your revenue, you lose your profit, right? So actually, the network business interruption is what part of the coverage of cyber insurance. It actually calculates your loss of business, how much revenue you lose.
Suffered, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, it's covered under cyber insurance. And then if you outsource IT, your services, right? So British Council actually covers IT forensic as well. So you call this 24/7 number, and then they have IT experts who come help you to tell you what you need to do in terms of recovering your system, make sure you back up and running in the shortest amount of time. So
I tried to answer Alex's question. Upon a professional insurance broker.
Thank you. And also a law firm. Yeah.
So the items you mentioned earlier, they're generally covered by cyber insurance.
Yeah.
And the premium for SMEs could be
Quite cheap.
quite cheap. So yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on, of course, depends on revenue. Depends on the revenue and your size,
Hong Kong,
right?
Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Hong Kong.
So it's like, don't think cyber
give you
insurance is
discount.
expensive.
Okay, so I think we reach our time. So I'll thank you everybody to came here and spend this time with us. I hope you think it was worth time to be here, and we were able to give you some more information about this topic. And of course, I believe Lockton as well as CNC will be available later if you have any further doubts to clarify any doubts. So thank you very much, and
Thank you.
have a good evening.